Almost like every ending of the episode, I was like, oh, like
right. That was the consistent theme for me.
It was some parts in here where my jaw was just like,
dog.
I gotta praise it so much because I feel like that's such a hard thing to accomplish, and like it's hard for me to be like shocked from watching an animated series.
Yeah,
you know that rarely happens.
Yes.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Cynicism. I'm Eric.
It's your boy Dante, man, and today we're going to be doing a review on the Amazon original series, Invincible.
This show is based on a comic book series, which I was actually unfamiliar with, but I know the writers are the same ones that did the Walking Dead comic book series as well. The main character is Mark Grayson, who is the superhero Invincible. When the show starts off, he doesn't have any superpowers of his own. His father, however, is Omni-Man, who is a internationally known superhero. Mark lives a pretty normal life at the start of the series. He's going to high school. He's going through the typical teenage years. Basically, the show is about him discovering his abilities and trying to follow in his father's footsteps and also balance that with his, the everyday life of a teenager, his personal issues, whatever he's got going on as well.
This show was very reminiscent of Spider-Man.
I was going to say the same thing.
It reminded me a lot of the things that you see Peter Parker go through, just that realistic portrayal of having to balance your superhero life with having to balance your actual teenage life. I would say he's a very grounded kid. He has a great relationship with his parents and he has a pretty good household.
He's not an underprivileged kid.
Yeah.
Like that's the major difference between him and somebody like a Peter Parker. His family is pretty successful. I think his mom is like a realtor.
Mm-hmm.
And his dad, what does he do? He's just a superhero.
Right.
He don't get paid for this shit. Right?
He might though. Because that high-tech organization he worked for.
I guess he worked with the government.
Yeah, I think they give
some kind of agency.
Yeah, so I think he's getting a stipend.
On top of Mark coming in to his own powers and abilities, he's also discovering some secrets that his father had hidden from him about his background, his alien species, and where he came from, and what his ultimate goal is, and what that entails for the Earth and its inhabitants.
This show has so many different elements that it plays with. It has that superhero element. It also has that teenage kind of melodrama element. But then it's a big mystery surrounding the show too. Like it's a lot of unsolved occurrences that are going on and a lot of character motivations that are kept in the shadows that are slowly unraveled. It's a lot of elements to keep you interested, and that's one of the main ones, trying to figure out characters' motivations for some extreme behavior that takes place.
It's worse than I ever even imagined. First, you have Mark, who is the star of the show. He starts developing powers around his 17th birthday. Mm-hmm. He's being trained by his father, who's Omni-Man. He has been a superhero for several decades at this point by the time Mark starts developing his powers and abilities. Kind of in that angsty phase in his life.
Yeah, he's very awkward. Simultaneously, he's learning about being a teenager and he's learning about becoming a young adult, but he's also learning to control his powers because in the beginning of the show, he doesn't really even know how to use his powers like that. His dad has to kind of take on his mentorship. In the beginning, it's janky as hell. The way he be landing on these spots be crazy. He be coming through. It's very off-brand heroism in the beginning of the show. He wanted to be a hero, but I think he was looking at that through a rose-colored lens. When he actually started to become a hero and see how it was when you actually have human lives at stake, I think he got a pretty dramatic wake-up call. Mm-hmm. And even though his powers insinuate that he's invincible, he also was getting the business in some of these, and that's another thing. I think he just was humbled in a lot of ways by not only his view of heroism, but also his view of his powers and his own limitations.
He was getting wrecked in this show, man.
Dude.
I mean, he wasn't the only one, though. It was a lot of people taking some major L's.
But for your name to be invincible and you get to work like that, I didn't think he could take that level of damage, honestly. I would say that he didn't really have the best relationship with his dad, which makes sense because his dad is probably absentee being a hero.
Right.
But the show kind of drops us off in a place where him and his dad are starting to build a relationship because he become a hero. But Mark has a much more closer relationship with his mom, who is fantastic in this show. She's amazing. And she's just a regular person. She's a realtor. And I think she offered a lot of good perspective on some of the hero stuff because she's kind of looking at it from the outside, looking in as just a citizen.
Yeah.
His dad just seemed to have, there was a level of arrogance and I dare say bouginess because it was like certain hero acts that he felt like was beneath them or something like that.
Given the finale of the show, then That's an understatement.
Yeah. She was immensely strong too for a lot of the things that was going on. And she was very good at keeping Mark in the dark about certain things that she knew would probably hurt him about his father. And we'll talk more about that. And it felt like a very realistic version of strong, you know. Yeah. And to be surrounded by so many other physically strong and supernatural people, I felt like her strength was still on a certain higher level.
I don't feel like in superhero shows we see this version of like a mother that often. She had a backbone, man. She was not afraid to stand up to Omni-Man when she thought he was wrong.
Yeah.
Which says a lot about somebody who knows that their significant other has like a crazy level of strength and could literally kill her in an instant.
Right.
But
Omni-Man?
Let's get to this, man. Omni-Man is Mark's father in a full-blooded Viltrumite. We are told by him was sent to Earth to serve as its protector. I guess in their culture, it's customary for the strongest Viltrumites to be sent out to different systems or galaxies to protect. Basically, we're told by him that he is Earth's protector. He works sometimes with the Guardians of the Globe, who is basically a knockoff Justice League superhero. I mean, it's literally a carbon copy of the Justice League. It's not even like inspired by it's literally the Justice League, but not them.
Right.
Whenever there's a distress call or something, Cecil, who's the head of this organization, will call Omni-Man directly. They have like a close working relationship, but they're not friends by any means. No.
It's hard to be friends with a person like that. Cecil sketchy as hell.
I mean, aside from his face.
Oh my God, listen, man. In the sunken place.
Discuss the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The bloody elephant. Where to begin? This is the first episode, right? We see the Guardians of the Globe meet up to answer a call, basically questioning what they're all doing there. Like each one thought the other one sent out the signal. And we come to find out that Omni-Man deceived them. He sent out the signal and as soon as he arrives on the scene, he immediately starts trying to kill people. He doesn't have one line of dialogue in this entire thing. He just started killing people. Yeah. I mean, from the first attempted blow, man, he was trying to take somebody's head off. Yeah. When he killed Red Rush, I think he grabbed his arms or grabbed his head or something. Somehow or another, he got to that head.
First of all, he killed him, so you already as a viewer like, what in the fuck?
The way that
the manner in which he killed him was so incredibly brutal. I mean, Mortal Kombat was looking like, nigga, what? Decapitations, people ripped to shreds. All you saw was just pieces of heroes everywhere. That shit was crazy. I never seen nothing quite like that, honestly, if I'm gonna be honest. So the whole show, a big part of his art is trying to figure out exactly why he did that. You don't even get that answer until the absolute end of the episode, and the show did a great job of concealing it. I don't even think they offered a lot of real hints as to why, honestly. He's keeping this secret from his family. He's acting as if he was a victim as well, because, by the end of the fight, of course he survived, but they beat him up a little bit, enough to make it look like they were all in a fight. Yeah. So he kind of presented it as if they were all ambushed by some unknown villain.
Why he's the only one that survived?
Correct. He's a prime suspect, as he should be. It makes all the sense in the world. Cecil pretty much knows he did it. He's really just trying to figure out why, the motivation behind it.
Let me tell you something about Omni-Man though, man. What were you thinking? If you wanted this to stay a secret, man, it's way better ways you could have went about doing this. First of all, why'd you kill everybody all at the same time? You could have killed them one by one.
Right, exactly, right.
He took the bloody suit home.
Right. He was keeping a lot of memorabilia with these crimes and shit.
I guess he didn't care. I don't know.
But it seemed like he did, though. That was the weird part. It seemed like he was intentionally trying to avoid having this discovered by his family, but at the same time, he was, like you mentioned, he was taking none of the necessary precautions. You know what I also say is that J.K. Simmons did a phenomenal job as
J.K. Simmons, man, that dude is talented.
Yes.
I love it when people that are comical can bring such a seriousness to a role. I think this and Whiplash, the times that I've seen him the most menacing.
Omni-Man is a pretty complex, well-rounded character, because there are moments where he's just like the typical American family dad. Yeah. But then when that switch hit, man, and he got to turn into this like psychotic, completely sociopathic person. I say complex in the sense that I didn't know how to feel about him by the end of the show. It seemed like there was a heart in there somewhere. I don't think that he was completely oblivious to feelings, but it was so much things that had happened that it was just hard to believe that he was. So I don't know where I stand on him.
I think what makes it conflicting for me is like you understand his motivation.
Yeah.
But the way that he executes them,
bro.
it makes it seem like as if he almost enjoys doing the shit that he's doing. The way he does things is not out of necessity.
Right.
Like, you don't have to kill people the way that you you're killing them.
It's the manner.
So that's what makes it harder for me to like.
You can't stand behind those shit like this. Nigga ripping heads off at a day's notice. I can't stand behind a character like that.
Then you have the Guardians of the Globe, well, the new Guardians of the Globe, team of teenagers that replace the previous Guardians of the Globe after they get massacred.
It's an interesting team. Mark teams up with them at least in the beginning before they had became the official new Guardians of the Globe. But he kind of had some run-ins with them, and it seemed like at one point they were going to be a team, and then he had auditioned to be a part of the new Guardians of the Globe as well. That guy Rex, man, oh my God, he was hilarious. What a dude! I mean, to the 10,000th degree. He was also semi-likable.
He was. He was funny.
Yeah, he was. He definitely brought that comedic element in there. That girl, Monster Girl, her power was whack as fuck. Like, it ain't even worth it, bro. So what you tell me, you ultimately gonna be a baby again?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
Like, so her powers.
She said I guess she only regresses like a week at a time.
That's trash.
Over time, that shit gonna add up.
That's super trash. I mean, you look at her now.
Like, what's the end result of this?
Right.
This power.
Adam Eve is actually a main character in the show, and she's one of Mark's probably best friends, especially his best superhero friend for sure. They go to the same school, and I think that he has a lot of good moments with her because she's been doing this for a while, and her home life ain't great either. So she's also trying to figure out where her place is in terms of being a superhero, or even if that's something that she wants to do, if she wants to be a regular person or not. She helps him with the whole thing with him dating Amber.
Did she have feelings for Mark or what?
It looked like it.
It seemed like it sometimes. It seemed like they just friends sometimes.
They hinted at it, but because she not an asshole, she saw that he was in a relationship and he was really trying to be about Amber. So I don't think she ever made a move. But it was pretty clear that when she came to his house that time, and like I think she was trying to maybe build something with him after Rex had cheated on her. She's an interesting character. Her powers is just whatever the fuck, right? She can just do whatever.
She kind of OP sometimes. Super. Key moments, takeaways. First of all, this show is violent. Far more violent than what I even anticipated. But I'm not mad at it because let me tell you why. I feel like it's not enough superhero shows that's like this. This show isn't geared toward children, obviously. The older I get, the more I want to see a superhero show where heroes get hurt. You know, I mean, it makes sense. Otherwise, what are the stakes if nobody feel like they ever in danger and you got like laser guns that just stun? You know how the show, the animated shows we grew up.
I hate it.
But I didn't know people were going to be getting torn apart and shit. And like losing ungodly amounts of blood at any given moment. It's crazy.
The level of violence in this show doesn't feel gratuitous. As crazy as that sounds, of course it's over the top violence, but it adds an element to the show of just seeing how powerful these characters are. Because a lot of the times you see characters and they're OP powerful, but you don't really get in a clear example. To see that Omni-Man could just kind of do this and somebody whole frame explode gives you a lot of perspective on how powerful this person is. So when you see him in a fight with his wife, knowing what he's capable of and he doesn't go there, I feel like you get a better, it adds a lot more element of understanding to some of these characters overall. Not even just in terms of the hero violence. I mean, heroes get beat up in this show, get fucked up like never before. You ain't never seen no shit like this. But you know what else I also respected? The collateral damage of just the citizens. People be getting hit like citizens.
People getting messed up.
Crushed by buildings, ripped in half. It's like real violence. And that would be what would happen if the stakes were actually that real. You know what I'm saying? People would be getting, I mean, you gotta understand, all of these characters are superhuman. Even by accident, you gonna be probably hurting some people.
Yeah,
you know
like when they're flying, when these people are flying through buildings and shit, you see citizens getting destroyed.
Yes. Honestly, and once again, added to the element of the show, I felt like it had a purpose because Mark, in seeing that, his idea of what a hero was so unrealistic, right? And then when he actually got to see people really getting hurt, people getting ripped up, people getting brutally killed by these aliens and these foes, I think it added a lot more of of some realism to him, man. And he was like, oh, I actually need to quit playing. I need to learn how to take this a little bit more seriously. This ain't a game. Like, it's actual lives at stake. How'd you feel about the animation?
I thought it was straight. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't phenomenal, but a lot of the action sequences looked pretty dope.
Yeah. When I first saw this show, I thought the animation looked a bit on the bland side. Yeah. But as the show went on, I appreciated it a lot more. It's definitely unique in that sense. I feel like this animation fits the style of the show.
The design of the characters and everything is straight. It's a very modern American looking show. Like that part where Omni-Man went into that portal, planet, when he wrecked that planet, that was one of the better looking sequences I felt.
I would also say the same thing about the last episode with him and Mark and all of that. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of really good ones.
We're gonna have to speak on that.
Yeah, dog. We might say the worst for last.
Battle Beast, that lion.
Listen,
I need to see him.
Who the fuck was that? Who is he? That dude was crazy, man. Like, why the fuck was he even there? Why didn't they call him back when they needed to get Omni-Man the fuck up out of there? I'm like, yo, get that lion dude, man. And then he had like a golden mallet, hammer.
Didn't even need that, bro.
Bro. And then the way he left was just, dog. You can't. First of all,
he was disappointed.
Yeah. He was like, oh,
like, bro, I can see my insides. Right? Like, haven't you done enough? What more do you want?
It's like, really, this y'all heroes? Anyway, like, where are you going, nigga? Back to hell where you belong?
They treated him like he was some kind of henchman. I'm like, bro. No. Clearly, he's a completely different tier than the rest of these people. Apparently, he's like a major problem in the comic. Obviously.
He's a major problem in this show. Right. And in that episode, I felt like after he had that bout with that lion dude, it went downhill from there. Because then that little them robot dudes gave him the business in the
Them robot dudes was a problem. I see why they said
I was about to say.
Man, we got to address this final battle between Mark and Omni-Man. Yeah. Because damn, was it brutal.
It was such a high emotional element to it, too. That last episode was so fulfilling, man. I felt like everything this show was building to the two of them coming ahead. Yeah. You didn't think that it was really going to happen, and especially in this way. So at the end of the show, Mark eventually finds out what Omni-Man's true motivations were. The Viltrumites are a race of seemingly conquerors. They conquer worlds. They go in there. These people are OP powerful. Their whole race of people, they killed each other just so only the strong people would survive. That's how brutal it was.
It's like Darwinism to the max.
To the absolute extreme. You learn that Omni-Man has ultimately been there to try to enslave Earth. Mark, of course, at the same time finding out that he killed the Guardians of the Globe. So I don't even know where his mind would be. That fight that they got into, bro, that's probably a top TV moment for me in recent years. It gotta be. Omni-Man was just not only ragdolling this man and showing him how far apart they were in terms of their powers, but just how much he didn't care, man, about just him, about the world. He was trying to show Mark essentially how insignificant humanity was. And I mean, dude, obviously you know that your son, who is part human and raised as a human, is not gonna be down with enslaving
white genocide.
Right, exactly. The collateral damage, that scene where he held him in front of that train and the train just ran through Mark.
That scene really is stuck with me. Like I can see it still clearly right now.
Me too. My jaw was dropped like throughout this whole shit, and that's hard to do. Like we're not strangers
in animation, man. Like that is hard to accomplish.
Yes, the part where he was like, "Your mom is like a pet to me," was that for some reason cut me a little deep because I'm like, damn,
and
bro,
that ain't even your mom.
You know you really get to see Omni-Man's true nature, man, and it was scary to watch. I guess at the end, you could say that his humanity took over to some degree, but nigga, after the damage he did on his son, I mean, you might as well just killed him.
It was brutal. And it wasn't even just the violence. It was all of what you just mentioned that made it hit that much harder. Yeah. So, I mean, it was just handled incredibly well.
Yeah. He's still calling the Viltrumite army, I'm assuming, right? You think? Or is he calling it off?
And that's the thing. You know, why he's pulverizing Mark, you know, when he starts looking back on their life together and everything, you know, he starts having like second thoughts and he becomes hesitant on like killing him, somewhere deep down, I guess he does still have affection. I mean, it's his son at the end of the day. After he almost kills him, he stops for a second and then he just flies off into space. So we kind of left wondering what he's going to do, if he's going to bring back an army, if he's going to return to talk to Mark and his wife. I don't know. And they left it like that intentionally.
I think him beating Mark to that degree was in part to try to convince himself that he was still the person, but he wasn't. I really don't think that he was, and him leaving spoke to that.
So Invincible season 1 was a wild ride. I'm so glad that I knew nothing about this previously. I went in blind. I didn't know any of these characters. I have to say that they delivered, and I'm definitely intrigued to see where they're going to go with the second season. I thought the voice acting was amazing. I thought the scenarios and the balance of the teenage high school life and the superhero life was done very well. I enjoyed the violence. I thought for this show, it was kind of necessary to give you perspective. I'm going to give Invincible a 9.5 out of 10.
This show is phenomenal. I can't even express to you how good it is. It's just something that you got to watch. I would say that if you're a fan of comic books and if you're a fan of this type of fantasy hero genre, check it out. If you're a fan of just good shows, I think you could also enjoy this show. It don't necessarily have to be if you're a fan of animation and comics and whatnot. It's impressive for any show to make you feel for characters in any way. The way this show does it in animation is something that I can't think of too many shows. I mean, the Spider-Man series, the Batman animated series come to mind. It's one of those where it provides a very human element to some characters and some fantastical elements that you used to. And I was so invested in this show and I looked forward to it. And I always appreciate shows like that, man, where you just can't wait to the next episode and you're looking forward to seeing where it's all going. I'm going to give this show a 9.5 as well. It's something that I would strongly recommend you check out. It's a very good show.
Thank y'all for tuning into our review of the Amazon original series, Invincible. I hope y'all enjoyed that. I strongly suggest if you're into like comic books or superheroes or any of that sort, definitely give this one a watch. I highly recommend it. As always, don't forget to drop a comment below if you have any suggested reviews for movies or television series that you'd like to see us review.
And if you guys have seen Invincible, please let us know what you thought of this show. How did you feel about the characters? How do you feel like this stacks up in terms of animated shows overall? I mean, where do you feel like the series is going to go? If you are familiar with the comic book, please let us know some of the character elements and things that might be missing from the show. We'd like to know that as well.
Definitely.
We appreciate y'all, man.
Thank y'all.
Peace.